Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Namo Buddhaya. Since time, human beings have observed the influence of the moon on this planet, its atmosphere, flora, and fauna, which greatly influence human lives. So, when the Buddha appeared in ancient India, full moon days were already recognized as days for religious practices. And this concept was not introduced by the Buddha. In fact, it was King Bimbisara who suggested to the Buddha that his ordered disciples teach on full moon days so that the lay people can learn from them. The Buddha agreed to King Bimbisara's request and henceforth introduced these two practices on full moon days. Monks to recite Patimokha and the monks to teach the Dhamma to the lay people. That was the start of Buddhist full moon day practices and has continued. Community. The major events of the Buddha's life all happened on moon days. His birth, great renunciation, life and death, delivering of the first sermon, Parinirvana. In fact, full moon, all the 12 begin.
There are some disturbances. You please ask to mute their chat so that the function and program may run smoothly. It is my request. The person
Yes, they have
who...
already been muted. Sir, they have been muted already.
Thank you. Thank you.
म्यूट किरण जी का म्यूट है.
No, Lama ji, again you are
mute.
You are mute. You are muted. Please kindly unmute.
Okay, continue.
Muted from the quarters. Now it's okay? Okay?
Yes, yes.
And it was on today's full moon day that Arahat Mahinda visited Sri Lanka. He was sent on a mission from India during the reign of his father, the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. He, along with his colleagues, traveled to the Mihintale Hill in Anuradhapura, Sri Lanka. There they chanced to meet the Sinhalese king, Devanampiya, to whom they delivered a sermon on Buddhism. The king was brought into the Buddhist fold, and he in return invited Arhant Mahinda and his followers to the city park of Mahamega, where they preached first to the members of the royal family and then to the common people. So, in order to commemorate this remarkable event that had occurred on this full moon day, Jestha full moon day, the Mahabodhi Society of India has organized this evening's webinar in order to make known to the masses of the glory of the Buddha Dhamma. The theme of this evening's webinar is, how did Ceylon, then now Sri Lanka, become a Dhamma island after the noble visit of Arahant Mahamahindra, the son of Emperor Ashoka the Great? This webinar is being presided over by Dr. Mahendra Singh, President of the Mahabodhi Society of India. And our honorable speaker this evening on the theme is Venerable Dr. W. Pannaloka Thera from Sri Lanka. I would now request our President, Dr. Mahendra Singh Ji, to please welcome our honorable speaker and all the members who have linked this evening to this memorable webinar. Dr. Mahendra Singh.
Thank you, Kiran Lama ji. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. First of all, on the pious occasion of the Jestha Purnima today, we are holding a webinar in the respect and memory of Mahamahinda, who departed on this date to the Sri Lanka. And first of all, I pray all the Gautam Buddha and all the previous Buddha and pray them to bestow blessings upon our Venerable General Secretary P. Sivli Thero and other monks and our Mahabodhi Society of India attendees here, just like Mahapatra, Kailaji, Kiran Lamaji, and all others, office bearer of the society. And more earnestly and warmly, I welcome all the guests, particularly our chief speaker, Dr. Pannalok Thero from Sri Lanka, and all other from the British Mahabodhi Society of England. So I welcome all the persons attendees here on the all audience on this auspicious occasion that I am feeling glad that on this occasion our Venerable General Secretary has made such a program in which the persons of the all corners from the world are connected to hear this program and to make it beautiful today. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Dr. Mahendra Singh Ji. I would now invite our honorable speaker, Venerable Dr. W. Pannaloka Thero, to please commence the significance of today's full moon day.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, may I share my slides with you?
Yes, of course.
So you have to enable me to share the screen. First, have to enable me to share the screen.
I would request our link operators at headquarters to please do the needful as per Bhante.
Okay, till then, okay, so then I will start. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. First of all, I should be thankful to Sri Lanka Mahabodhi, which has been giving me continuously many opportunities to share my thoughts and to share the Dhamma with the Dhamma friends through this organization, wonderful Buddhist organization in the world. Today is our beginning day actually. The Poson Poe Day in Sri Lankan language, Jestha Purnima. So we, as the initiators mentioned, okay, I will start the sharing. So this topic given to me was that how did Ceylon or Sri Lanka become a Dhamma island after visit of Arahant the Mahinda, Mahamahendra, the son of Emperor Asoka the Great. So this question is to be addressed today during this gathering. Before that, actually, as I was continuing, I should be thankful for giving this opportunity. Whether I am the qualified person to address this topic or not, I don't know. I know that here I can see there are many senior scholars are here. Somehow, maybe as I am from Sri Lanka, the society considered it is to chance for me. Somehow I will stop it. Before going to the slides of mine with, about this topic, this is a timely topic. Today is the full moon day of Poson in Sri Lanka, full of celebrations everywhere, every temple. People are memorizing the day of the arrival of Arahant Mahinda and his group to Sri Lanka and the coming of Buddhism to Sri Lanka. Actually, as a missionary, how Arahant Mahinda was successful, we have to rethink. And it is at once I can feel, I feel that it is a positive feeling I get definitely. At the same time, this success now more than 2,300 years, Buddhism is residing in this land, in this small island. When we compare to the other countries, big lands, and the Sri Lanka, geographically how small, the size of the country, and the number of the population, etc. When I put all the matters together, how Buddhism survived at least, then flourishing, how the Sri Lankan protected Buddhism and how Buddhism survived in this land itself, I think it's a wonderful story. Because India is, we call 60 times bigger than Sri Lanka, but maybe perhaps bigger than that. 60 times is on the normal calculation. That's normal calculation. And throughout history, there were many attempts to change the course of religion. Many invasions came to Sri Lanka, and many threats came to against Buddhism and destroyed Buddhist temples, Buddhist texts, killed monks, and so many things took place. But this small island, since the Mahinda's day till today, could preserve this religion. How it happened? This is perhaps secret. Maybe I should not reveal it in front of a gathering because they can grasp it and attack us again. But here you are Buddhist or loving Buddhist, so maybe no need to worry about. I think this is a wonderful story, to wonderful side to think of Sri Lanka, this small island, because we can see in the when we place Sri Lanka and how big other religions have overcome some lands like in the world. I know some Buddhist countries have the population, Buddhist population has gone down, and maybe some other religious groups, their religious following has increased, and Buddhism has been totally wiped away from some lands. So, but their land size, when we compare to Sri Lanka, I think how Sri Lankans were able to protect against these challenges is wonderful. It's something to think and something to analyze about Arahant Mahinda's strategy, I think. So, for example, we know that whenever in the ancient history, South Indian emperors or kingdoms got power, and when they became strong, they came to Sri Lanka, invaded Sri Lanka. They want to maybe convert Buddhist and Hindu kings had some tension, of course. The Hindu followers at that time, now it is, of course, totally, it's a different story. But ancient time, it was not same. the Buddhism in Sri Lanka was a kind of thorn in the eye. So, but nobody could wipe out Buddhism from Sri Lanka and establish another religion in this land at that time. Again, the different stories started in the 16th century when the Westerners came to Sri Lanka, Portuguese, Dutch, and English. So these three nations, 500 years, more or less, some part of Sri Lanka were ruled by that Portuguese and Dutch, and then English could dominate whole island, and they used different strategies and sometimes power, sometimes indirect power, and sometimes law. Everything they used to change the course and convert Buddhist into Christianity. But finally, what happened was, of course, some percentage were converted, but some people who were converted once, they again came back to Buddhism. They they came back to religion and they became Buddhist again. And when we compare their power, their strategies, etc., I think especially their power and population, etc., this matters. Their wealth, how much money they spend for the conversion. I think Sri Lanka has nothing. Sri Lankan Buddhism has nothing to spend. Sri Lanka has nothing to compete material-wise. It's still Mahinda's message or Buddha's message survives. Now in Sri Lanka, 70% population is Buddhist. And I know that Sri Lankan Buddhist monks are serving in different countries all over the world. And I came to know from from other Buddhist traditions like Tibetan Buddhist masters and Chinese Buddhist masters. They have, my friends, sometimes they have told me, Sri Lankan Buddhist masters are doing well in overseas or in foreign lands, in propagation-wise, in teaching Buddhism to the foreign people. So this education, this training, this motivation, I think was planted by Mahinda 2,300 more years ago in this land. So still his power continues in this land. Make a research how this might, in this small island, I think if we compare the lands, 9 missions, Swarna Bhumi, etc., these are all bigger lands. The missions went to 9 lands. We go to them later after sharing my thoughts, basic thought. So if we compare these 9 places, Sri Lanka may be I guess, the smallest place, but the smallest but strongest place. Smallest but strongest place. So how it became strongest? What was the strategy? What are the methods, or what were the strategies behind this topic? Of course, even not I, but start kind of research and examine this missionary strategy of Arahant Mahinda in Sri Lanka. I am narrating here the known methods and try to see them, my knowledge, in the perspective of missionary methods as his method of propagating Buddha's message here to plant, to turn this whole island into a Buddhist land. And on the other hand, my second thought is my answer to these strategies. What were the strong points that Mahinda used in this island? I guess one thing is language. We learned that he brought Tripitaka and commentaries here, and they were in Sinhalese language. And until Buddhaghosa came to Sri Lanka, Buddhism remained Buddhist. And especially it is mentioned that Atakatha remained in Sinhala. So it means that, in propagating the religion, language plays key role. Language is very important. We know that China, the Chinese missionaries, the missionaries who went from India, Central Asia, and other places to China to propagate to Buddhism. First few centuries, mainly they did two, three things. One thing I noted is translating, put the Buddha's teaching into Chinese. Second, they understood the trends in the society, like Ansakau and Lokakshema. Ansakau understood that Chinese were very close to Anapanasati meditation through the Taoistic tradition. At the same time, Lokakshema or Trelojachan, he understood that Prajna tradition is very close to the Chinese metaphysical studies. So they selected Buddhist texts from that two lines, Prajna tradition and Dhyana tradition, and they translated more and more and put into the Chinese society and spread Buddhist teaching. At the same time, until the Chinese canon was completed in the Tang Dynasty in the 9th century, canon was closed. Until then, they continuously kept translating the Buddhist texts because the knowledge should be available for the local people in local language. So I think for several centuries, it means that from 3rd century BC is the time that we learn Arahant Mahinda came to Sri Lanka, and then 8 centuries, so nearly 1 millennium, Buddhist language had been in Sinhala. So then I think this could be a reason to imprint Buddhist teachings in the heart and minds of Sri Lankan people, because it is easy access. If it is foreign language, it's difficult. Of course, some other reasons are there. This could be another very strong reason Mahinda used, bringing these commentaries and Tripitaka in Sinhala language to Sri Lanka. Maybe, I guess, one of the most important thing that he did to introduce Buddhism into Sri Lanka, so that it. So these are some pre-thoughts of mine about the Mahinda's role in Sri Lanka. Formal presentation. Of course, that we know that today is the best day to ask the question: how did Sri Lanka or Ceylon become a Dhamma island? After the visit of Arahanta Mahinda, the son of Emperor, asked great. The topic is little longer, I think. Mahinda's visit. So actually, this topic is very vast. I feel I'm not historian. My subject area is not that much related to history of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, but as a Buddhist monk, answers, so I accept invitation. So but this subject is subject someone should. I'm sorry, actually, when I started, there was power cut at my place. Now electricity restored, so I think I hope it will remain until at least my talk is completed. So the mission of us mind is the result of Venerable Moggaliputti's Thera and Asoka's contribution to propagate Buddha's word. And it is mentioned that not only the Arahant mind, he was with a group of monks, Ittiya, Uttiya, Sambala Bhaddasala, Sumana Samanera, and Banduka Upasaka. They came along with Arahant mind. And the whole this mission we can analyze in five areas, and how he transformed this this island into island. The method of localization and the role of the language played in Tripitaka among the Sinhalese or Buddhist people in Sri Lanka, and also the factors like before Buddhism arrived, there were local practices, beliefs, but no one organized religion in the Sri Lanka. So it means there was some space for one religion to emerge as a champion or state religion. So I think Arahant mind could grasp that opportunity, that space. So that is another point for us to think. And also Buddhism, natural similarity of India and Sri Lanka also might have played some role in introducing Buddhism, even because we know that these two countries' relations are not just started at the Mahinda's time. It runs backward. So this cultural similarity and also familiarity of Indian philosophical thought could have existed. So all this might contribute to introduce Buddhism in a way that it lasts long. And also the already gained knowledge of Buddhism. This is another point. We learned that Buddha himself visited Sri Lanka 3 times, even though there are some disagreements about the Buddha's visit to Sri Lanka, but the commentarial tradition clearly maintained that Buddha visited Sri Lanka 3 times into 3 places. So familiarity with Buddha's teaching itself could have been, might be a reason or supportive factor for Mahinda to educate Buddhism, educate Buddhism to Sri Lankan people. So all this together might contributed to ingrain Buddhism in the minds of people in Sri Lanka. So the factors like I think so this is very important. Let's start here now. According to the Sri Lankan chronicles, the Buddha had visited Sri Lanka 3 times. There's no agreement on this matter among the scholars, however. E.W. Adhikaram, we know that one of earlier researcher in Sri Lanka. So his understanding is that in his book, Early History of Buddhism in Ceylon, based on Pali commentarial literature, that the traditional account on Buddha's arrival cannot be denied. So then Buddha had visited Sri Lanka 3 times. Is true according to commentarial tradition for E.W. Adhikaram, according to his research. Somehow, whether it is commentarial tradition or it is Adhikaram's view, but we learn that we can reason. India and Sri Lanka are not that far. The teachers like Buddha, his message and his fame it is no wonder that it should have reached Sri Lanka while he was alive. And his teachings should have come to Sri Lanka. We can use even common sense sometimes, because whatever in India happening, we learn even, of course, today technology is very fast, so we can learn quickly, but even in ancient time, there was, I think, good communication between the world. World was globalized, not now. I think you agree with me. The world was globalized at the time of Alexander, or even perhaps before that. So learning from each other, spreading the news to the world was not something new. So Buddha's message might have reached Sri Lanka even at that during the Buddhist time itself. The conqueror, this is how it is mentioned, that in the 9th month of his Buddhahood, at the full moon of Pusa, February, himself set forth for the Isle of Lanka to win Lanka for the faith. For Lanka was known to the conqueror as a place where his doctrine should therefore shine in glory, and he knew that from Lanka, filled with the yakas must be driven forth. Whether so what we can learn from is the one thing is the Sri Lankan tradition perceives that Sri Lanka is a suitable soil for Buddhism to flourish. So if we use the perspective of Sri Lankan and who composed this Mahavansa, etc., they themselves they had an understanding Sri Lanka is a suitable place for Buddhism to flourish, and also if they represent a tradition that continued in Sri Lanka regarding Buddhism, so in the Buddhist world, there might have a strong tradition, a stronghold for Buddhism. So this text can be read in many perspectives. And also, as I mentioned in my summary form, no state religion when in this early stage, before Arahant Mahinda came to Sri Lanka, there was no state religion. So until the introduction of Buddhism, there was no state religion in Sri Lanka. Various beliefs and practices like Jainism, Brahmanism, and local gods, etc. There were many state belief, which were recognized as state religion. To name few beliefs: worship of yaksas and trees, Jainas, Paribhajakas, and Brahmanism. Buddhist beliefs: the worship of yaksas seemed to have been a popular and prevalent cult in ancient Sri Lanka. The King Pandukabaya has housed the Yakshani Valavamukhi within the royal precincts and made early sacrificial offerings them and to other yakshas, Mahavansa, 10th chapter, and also worship of trees, ancestor worship, Brahmanism, and also Jainis or Nigantas. There were three famous Nigantas called Jyotir, Giri, and Kumbhanda. The King Panduabe built houses for these Nigantas. The King Pandukabe settled the Yakka Kalavela on the east side of the city, the Yakka Chittaraja at the lower end of the Abe tank. The slave woman who had helped him in time and past and was reborn of a Yakani. And the thankful king settled at the south gate of the city within the royal precincts. He housed the Yakshani in the form of a mayor. Year by year, he had sacrificial offerings made to them and to other yaksas. But on festival days, he sat with Chittaraj beside him on a seat of equal height, and having gods and men to dance before him, the king took his pleasure in joyous and merry. So this show that what the beliefs had in ancient time. And regarding the advent of Buddhism, one of the Sri Lankan renowned Buddhist scholar, Walpola Rahula's view is also significant. It means he hints that before Arahant Mahinda's arrival, there should be contact with Buddhism. Although this may be regarded as the official introduction of Buddhism to the country, it's not reasonable to believe that information about the Buddha and his teachings and the news of great activities of mighty Buddhist emperor of India had not reached the island earlier. According to historical records, from the time of Vijaya, there had been constant intercourse between the two countries. In the year 252 BC, Arahant Mahinda came to Ceylon with 4 other Theras. His purpose in bringing them was conferring Upasampada. So that the day of or the year of coming to Sri Lanka, the Arahant Mahinda and his retinue here. According to records, King Devanapedis was on hunting when he met the Munde of the 6th month, Jetha being addressed by the Arahant. Their meeting took place. Nowadays we call Mihintale, or in the Pali it is Missakupawa, near the Anuradhapura city, a few kilometers away. Arahant Mahinda by his name. The king asked who they were. Arahant Mahinda responded by saying, Samanamayang Maharaja Dhammaraja Sasavaka Taveva Anukampaya Jamudi Vaidagata. O king, we are the adherents of the enlightened one, the Buddha, who has revealed the noble path to the total liberation and have visited you from Dambadiva through compassion. So this one, many students learn by heart. Samanamaya Maharaja, Dhammaraja Sasavaka. So then this missionary group has come to Sri Lanka with the compassion for us. So then this is the first meeting which took place between Arahant Mahinda and Devanampiya, the ruler at the time. This is, here is 247 BC date. Meeting between Mahinda and Devanampiya at the Mystic Power. This nowadays when Jetha comes and the full moon day celebrations. This is part of celebrations in temples or in places where celebrations are conducted. So this episode of meeting between Arahant Mahinda and the King Devanampiya Tissa, and how he takes his bow, arrow, and he's targeting that deer, and the Mahinda is standing on the rock. So this scene is everywhere. Means anywhere if this event is celebrated, if episode is celebrated, this picture is depicted. So it's a very celebrated picture in Sri Lanka, this one. It reminds us of meeting between this and the Arahant Mahinda and the King Devanampiya, the ruler of Anuradhapura at that time. Then they met over there. We know that two questions were raised, and then finally, monk, the Arahant Mahinda was happy about the level of intelligence of the king, and he understood that he is ready to is suitable candidate to receive the teaching of the Buddha. So then the king invited the monk, the master, and the followers to the palace in the following day. Having assured that the king was wise enough to understand the Buddha's teaching, Arahant Mahinda delivered the Chula Hatipado Sutta, the shorter discourse on the simile of the elephant's footprint, from the middle length discourses of the Buddha, Majjhima Nikaya discourse, Chulahatipada. This discourse, the Buddha had presented the essence of the teaching, describing the journey of a disciple from the lay life to monastic life, and the cultivation of morality, sila, samadhi, and panya, to attain the final stage of arahant and liberation from all suffering. So then these are also part of his missionary project to establish the Buddha's order in Sri Lanka. First, one step is establishing the Bhikkhu order in the country, Bhikkhu Sasana. So then the first ordination of a Buddhist monk carried out by Arahant Mahinda since his visit to Sri Lanka was that of Upasaka Banduka, who had traveled with Arahant Mahinda from India. One day the king asked Arahant Mahinda whether the order of Buddhist monks had been firmly established in Sri Lanka. The king was informed that it would happen only when a monk born in Sri Lanka to Sri Lankan parents was able to learn the code of monastic discipline, Vinaya, formulated by the Buddha and recited. Here, I feel that this is also a strategic part of Arahant Mahinda. So it means he wanted to localize Buddhism, and local people should learn it. Not the foreigners maintain the Dhamma. No, it should be local people learn it and practice it. They should be the finally the custodian of the Dhamma in a particular land. This is a clever missionary and correct missionary. This is method. I think this is also a far he had seen future. Means if you want to even I think today this valid method, if you want to establish in certain area, we should educate the local people, which our teaching should be transmitted to the local people, and they should be the responsible people for this mission. So then they are there for us. I think that Mahinda did it here through this activity. Means Maha Arit and 55 his brothers were ordained. When Maha Arit was bright enough to learn it, Vinaya, and was able to recite the Vinaya to a large audience headed by the king, recited Sanghi, Arahant Mahinda. Since then, large numbers of men from villages and towns all over Sri Lanka who had become Buddhist, ordained as Buddhist monks, and the king arranged to build temples and monasteries for them to reside. So we can see that following this event, continuously Sri Lankan people started to become monks. They got ordination, they got interested in Buddha's teaching. So the This is another strategy, this localizing the teaching and making the local people responsible for maintaining the Dhamma. That is how I think Arahant Mahinda thought to continue the Dhamma in this land. And the second is the ordination of the nuns, Bhikkhuni Sasana, establishing the Bhikkhuni Sasana. The teachings of Mahinda led the Queen Anula and her 500 companions to realize first state of liberational path, Sotapan. Then they wanted to be ordained as Buddhist nuns. In order to fulfill their wish, the Arahant Mahinda, through the king, requested his sister Sangamita Theri to come to Sri Lanka and establish the Bhikkhuni order. We know that this is another critical point in Sri Lankan history. That is the bringing the Bodhi tree. Of course, we learned that Sangamita Theri brought Upasampada and established Bhikkhuni order here. At the same time, most important thing is bringing the Bodhi tree to Sri Lanka, which has enjoyed durable influence, last long influence till today in Sri Lanka. And it has built a culture, different culture. Within Buddhist culture, there is a Bodhi culture in Sri Lanka. Every temple has got a Bodhi tree, and people gather around Bodhi tree. You know, even maybe people do not go to shrine room, but they go to the Bodhi tree, because Bodhi tree is treated as a place where people pray for their blessings and their hardships are revealed in front of the Bodhi tree, and they get blessings from the Bodhi tree. So Bodhi tree is a different culture. Bodhi tree symbolizes Buddhist culture and one part of Buddhist culture. Bodhi culture is there in Sri Lanka. So this event, I think it is through the Bodhi. We know that it is story Bodhi once, etc. There was literature also, and it is very critical event in the Sri Lankan Buddhist history, and it supported definitely to confirm the establishment of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. The king arranged to send a delegation headed by his nephew Maha Arita. I mean, king means that here the king Devanampiyatissa, in order to get the Bhikkhuni ordination to Sri Lanka. To India, requesting Emperor Asoka to send Arahant Sangamita to Sri Lanka. Emperor Asoka then arranged to send Arahant Sangamita accompanied by 11 other nuns. Along with this delegation, Emperor Asoka had also sent a number of families from different castes who were skilled in 18 types of arts and crafts. I think this is also contributory to build a Buddhist civilization in Sri Lanka. With these missionary groups, the Indian knowledge bodies were imported to Sri Lanka. So with the Buddhist tradition, this art and science were also developed. So then it is not alone only a set of texts or teachings, but a lifestyle is supported by with this science and this technology. Bodhi tree. Arahant Sangamita also brought a sapling of the sacred Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, under which the Gautama Buddha attained full enlightenment. The king Devanampiyatissa planted the Bodhi tree in the Mahamega garden in Anuradhapura, where it exists to date and has become an attraction for Buddhists living all over the world. We all know the Srima Bodhi is a wonderful place for any Buddhist in the world. How much time is left there for me? Hello, sir. How long I can speak?
I think about 10 minutes. So you can speak when ready.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you. So Sri Lankan Bhikkhuni order was established by giving ordination to Queen Anula and her 500 companions by Sanghamitta Theri. The Bhikkhuni order of the country remained for several centuries, but by the Polonnaru period, the Bhikkhuni order was lost in the country. But it is mentioned that in the 5th century, 6th century AD, the nuns were very advanced. They were masters of Abhidhamma. They traveled in the country teaching Abhidhamma. So, but somehow it lost in the middle. It is recorded in the Buddhist literature that in the 5th century AD, a group of Sri Lankan nuns headed by Bhikkhuni Devasara, a Chinese in Chinese Tiesara, visited China to ordain women and establish the order of Buddhist nuns in China. So now we know that in Sri Lanka there is a debate, still there is going on, that problem of Bhikkhuni ordination. So, and also some group brought Upasampada from foreign means in Mahayana countries, and it was interpreted as a return of Bhikkhuni order to Sri Lanka. It means because the Chinese tradition was initiated by Sri Lankan nuns in the history, Devasara. So this how this Sri Lankan tradition contributed to the world. In the course of after the Parinibbana of both Sanghamitta and Mahinda and the Sanghamitta, Buddhism continued, and then with the time in the Nikayas came into existence. So this shows the getting expansion of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Rising of the Nikayas. One of the significant developments in Sri Lankan Buddhism was giving rise to 3 Buddhist schools during the Anuradhapura period: Mahavihara, Abhayagiri, and Jetavana. And also, Mahavihara survived for over millennium, and it is considered as the root of all 3 Buddhist sects in Sri Lanka: Siam, Amarpura, and Raman, even today. The second school, Abhayagiri, was a breakaway faction of the Mahavihara and established in the 1st century BC by Mahatissa Thera. And the last school is Jetavana, Sagalika, which was an offshoot of Abhayagiri, was established in the 3rd century CE by Ussiliya Thera. And also another important event that took place in the Sri Lankan Buddhist history is that writing down the sacred books. In Sri Lanka, the Theravada was well established, and the Sangha studied various parts of the Tripitaka, committed to memory and preserved as oral traditions, Bhanaka tradition, etc. So we know that these are key points. Some to take, I will skip some. Tone of new civilization. Let's turn to how Buddhism changed, transformed Sri Lankan land. Even before Mahinda's arrival, Sri Lanka and India had relations. When we study pre-Buddhist history of Sri Lanka, we can see several Indian missions had happened. The Prince Vijay with his company and his nephew Pandu Vasadeva and his company, the Indian immigrants were mastered in various arts and sciences. Consequently, they had initiated a systematic civilization from Anuradhapura to southern Sri Lanka. We can say that by the time when Arhant Mahinda reached, there was a developed culture in Sri Lanka. So then it was easy for Mahinda to propagate this advanced philosophy in the country. Venerable Mahinda's mission and following several Buddhist missions to Sri Lanka gave a totally Buddhist orientation with society. 2 significant missions. Sanghamitta Theri brings the sacred Bodhi tree with a group of craftsmen. Prince Hemamala and Prince Danta bring the sacred tooth relic. What happened after Buddhism? Before Buddhism arrived, we learned that there was no an organized religion within the country. Within the first 2 centuries, the whole country had embraced Buddhism. Because of influence of Buddhist teachings, the society was organized, centered on Buddhism. So, therefore, each village had a temple. The ancient Sri Lanka is represented by the saying, So this saying represents Sri Lankan culture in ancient time. Whereby Dagabay Gamay Pansala, it means reservoir and pagoda, village and temple, they are together. So temple is part of the culture. So near the tank, there is pagoda. So these are two important pagodas in Sri Lanka. This is Ratnamali Mahacheti in Anuradhapura. This is Abegiri. This is in Anuradhapura. So, and also different cultural uh, atmosphere was created due to the through the introduction of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. One of cherishing relation is that monk and the lay people's relation between monk and the lay person. Starting from the king to the ordinary citizen, maintained a close relation with the monk. Until British colonization, temple was the school for children. Buddhism medicine, art and architecture, astrology, language, etc. Both religious and secular subjects were taught at the temple. The events in the life were celebrated under the blessings of monks. Before the birth of a child, at naming, giving first rites, marriage, and death, all were performed according to Buddhist tradition. Buddhist centers, international relations were created through Buddhism to Sri Lanka. During the time of Arahant Mahin, the first Buddhist monastery in Sri Lanka was built. It was called Mahavihara. It served for several centuries to spread Buddhism to the world. Countries like Myanmar, Cambodia, and Thailand all have scriptures taken from Mahavihara to their countries. And also it served as stronghold of Theravada Buddhism, which is practiced in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Art and architecture. With the introduction of Buddhism, new arts developed. Some Buddha images, paintings, and many forms of artworks appeared, leaving a legacy for future generations. The moonstone is a wonderful piece of art in Sri Lankan Buddhist history. These are some remarkable artwork related to Buddhism. This is in Polonnaruwa. This is in Anuradhapura. Buddha statues. This Jawaharlal Nehru has visited this and he has mentioned about this Buddha statue. This is another famous Buddha statue. This is the art. Pagodas everywhere, even now. Many pagodas all over the country. Here, Ruanali is Anuradhapura Pagoda. And it was the culture on the top of, in the higher plains, pagodas were built. So on the top of rocks, sometimes pagodas were built. This stupa is my temple. You are welcome to visit one day. Stupa on rock, Jahangal ancient pagoda, that is in southern Sri Lanka, Hambantota, near the Hambantota harbor and airport, Mattala airport. So then the new part is the Buddhism cultivated new set of values in this land. One is love for beings, foremost. The Buddha and Jaina Mahavira are known to have emphasized non-violence. In the Sri Lankan society, care for the life of other beings was very important value. Kings and people all were equally compassionate. This said, the king Buddhadasa had treated the serpent by himself and had set up hospital for animal care, like I think Dharma Soka. Moreover, not killing Maghat law was enforced by several kings in the history of country. So about the tendency of non-violent behavior among the Sri Lankan people, the late Dr. A.T. Aryaratne, the founder of Sarvodaya movement, once had written like this: in the Buddhist society, loving kindness, compassion, and respect for life are given highest priority. That is the Buddhist. In one hand, Buddhism had embraced important ideas from other religions. It allows to exist the other. The most important thing is Buddhist tradition in Sri Lanka allow the existence of the other. The god Vishnu is in Buddha's shrine room. Many religions exist in the country and they all exercise religious freedom. And then Polonnaru period, I think it's no need to go there. And another important thing that molded the Sri Lankan culture is Bodhisattva ideal. After Mahayana Buddhism had been introduced to Sri Lanka, the Bodhisattva ideal developed and spread rapidly in Sri Lankan culture. Many Bodhisattva statues were constructed in various places in the island, and people were fascinated by the Bodhisattva ideal. Mahayana Bodhisattva worship got amalgamated into the Sri Lankan Buddhist culture and mid-Anuradhapura period. The inscription found in Tiriyai and Mahayana Trikaya Stava inscription at Mihintale are very important regarding this practice. And also in the Anuradhapura Polonnaru period, some kings were recognized themselves as bodhisattvas. They said, Nobosattu Melakdiuhi, Nobosattu Norajwan. So I think by the time of Polonnaru, every aspect of Buddhism came to Sri Lanka and they all got localized and Buddhism got rooted in the land so that it would remain for this land for several millennia, of course. Of this project of introducing Buddhism, Arahant Mahinda had done it in a systematic way, and because of his intelligence and because of his strategy, Buddhism facing challenges, overcoming challenges has come a long way, and till even at the moment it is the Sri Lankan masters are doing well. It means the message is spreading and spreading into the various parts of the world. So this is a message that world needs, and it is a great thing to contribute to this message. It means to spread it to the world. So Arahant Mahinda deserves our respect unconditionally forever. May Triple Gem bless you. These are my reflections as I started with this. So localization, language, non-existence of state religion, India and our cultural similarity, and knowledge gained Buddhism might have been factors that supported Arahant Mahinda to transform Buddhism in Sri Lanka, transform Sri Lanka into a Dhammadeepa, which remained for several millennia, I hope. Thank you.
साधु साधु
साधु साधु बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया। राइट, श्रीलंका के बारे में बहुत कुछ जानकारी।
I think Kiranji.
I think Kiranji has left.
We can invite Honorable Secretary from British Mahabodhi Society to address the audience. Dr. Amal Abewardana is here.
Thank you, Venerable Sivali. Can you hear me?
Please. Yes, I want to introduce you to our members of Mahabodhi Society, our office bearers, all are here.
Oh, wonderful.
And most of them, it is very good time. You can address about something about British Mahabodhi Society's activities and also today's. Yes.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, Venerable Sivali. I'm very grateful for the chance and greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and the other members of the Mahabodhi Society of India. I'd first like to thank Venerable Pannaloka for a very enlightening talk about Mahinda and the relevance of his coming to Sri Lanka and the roots that he planted in terms of putting Buddhism firmly into the culture of Sri Lanka thereafter. It's a remarkable story and it's a remarkable life, and something that will live on forever. And it also makes me reflect on the journey of Buddhism, not only within Sri Lanka, but outside Sri Lanka, that has become established after Mahinda because of the many things that you said, including the writing of the Tripitaka in Sri Lanka, and how Buddhism spread further into other Asian countries, I think like Burma and Thailand, because of Mahinda bringing Buddhism to Sri Lanka. And indeed, more relevantly, as far as the British Mahabodhi Society is concerned, we must also remember that if not for Mahinda and the establishment of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, the founder of the Mahabodhi Society, Anagarika Dhammapala, was able to revitalize Buddhism at a time when Buddhism was under severe threat during Sri Lanka's colonial period. So the great thing is that during that period, Sri Lanka did show resilience and maintained its Buddhism and has seen Buddhism flourish since then. But it is also responsible through the work of Anagarika Dhammapala to spread Buddhism outside Sri Lanka, and in particular, for my interest in Britain, because he established a firm. He's the first monastery outside Asia, Buddhist monastery outside Asia, is the London Buddhist Vihara, and he established that in 1926. And the British Mahabodhi Society also dates back to that period. I'd like to, if I may, just reflect on what the British Mahabodhi Society is doing today, and also provide some ways of also collaborating with the Mahabodhi Society of India, if I may. So the Anagarika Dhammapala Trust oversees various organizations that were established under Anagarika Dhammapala during his lifetime, and the trust has expanded on those organizations and built and furthered his legacy. So in terms of the UK, the London Buddhist Vihara is still a flourishing premier Buddhist monastery in England, led by Venerable Bogada Sila Vimala. And we continue to obviously serve the people in Britain with Buddhism. The Venerable Sila Vimala is appointed by the Anagarika Dhammapala Trust, and he's highly esteemed within the British establishment. Whenever there is a major national occasion, like the coronation of the king recently, or the wedding of the monarch, or the death of a monarch, or the cenotaph when the remembrance day for the war dead is concerned, and there's an interfaith gathering, Venerable Sila Vimala is selected as the sole representative of Buddhism in the UK. So that's a significant achievement for London Buddhist Vihara. The British Mahabodhi Society is really more concerned about the initial concept that Anagarika Dhammapala had in bringing Buddhism to Britain and also to establish a vihara, and that is to focus on spreading Buddhism to Western audiences, especially amongst Britain, British people, Europe, and North America. So that is our primary aim. We are therefore providing all our activities and events in English, and they're available generally not only in-person, at in-person events in Britain, in London, but also available to join, just like this webinar, via Zoom. And Venerable Sivali has kindly promoted some of our events, many of our events already, and we further look forward to that collaboration. The other areas that we are looking to develop with the Mahabodhi Society of India is regular pilgrimages from people in the UK to visit the holy sites, the holy Buddhist sites in India, and meet with representatives of the Mahabodhi Society, where obviously your temples and other facilities are available. So that is something we're looking forward to establish. And we're also hoping to participate in global disseminations of Buddhism jointly. I know Venerable Sivali has been doing, I think for more than 10 years now, a Buddhist seminar every year. And we look forward to joining that and bringing the audience from the British Mahabodhi Society to add and collaborate and contribute to those discussions. So without further ado, I'd just like to thank Venerable Sivali again and for inviting me to talk on this auspicious occasion, and wish you all the best today. Pusan is being celebrated at the Vihara on Sunday. We too, just like the temples in India and Sri Lanka, celebrate not only Pusan and Mahinda's contribution to bringing Buddhism to Sri Lanka, but also we have Sanghamitra Day in December to mark the occasion when Emperor Ashoka's daughter brought the Bukkani tradition to Sri Lanka as well. Thank you very much. I'm honored to participate.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Amal Abeyewardene, the Secretary of British Mahabodhi Society, London, that is in London Vihara, London Buddhist Vihara, that was established in 1926, near about a century ago. 98 years have already gone. So very good description of the Mahabodhi Society, British Mahabodhi Society. Now, the main talk has already over. So now may I request our President, Dr. Mahendra Singh, to present presidential observation. Yes, only briefly, very briefly.
And also, Kailash can open for audience if they need for a few minutes.
Okay.
You can request for the audience if they ask any question or interaction for a few minutes, about 10
Okay.
minutes. Then you can invite to the president.
Okay. So we invite your opinion or your feelings regarding today's talk of Venerable Vadinagala Panyaluka Theru, who has delivered a talk on how did Buddhism become entered in Dhamma Island, that is in Sri Lanka. A talk delivered by Venerable Panyaluka Theru. So you can express your views. How did you feel about this talk? Yeah. Okay, it was all good. Yeah. It's okay. So, okay, no one is expressing his views. All are feeling good. So now, okay, now may I invite our President, the President of Mahabodhi Society of India, Dr. Mahendra Singh Ji, to just place his presidential observation. and very brave. Sir.
Thank you, Kailash ji. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. First of all, I pay my roasted salutations to the Venerable General Secretary P. Shivlithero, who arranged this webinar on this pious occasion. Secondly, I also pay my salutation regard to our chief speaker, Dr. Venerable Dr. W. Pannalok Thera from Sri Lanka. And thirdly, the Amal Abe Vardhane, Secretary, British Mahabodhi Society of England, and all the organizers who are conducting this program and audiences. And now I will not say much because our first speaker gave a very lucid and vivid clarification regarding this event and the establishing of the Dham in Sri Lanka by Venerable Mahamahinda. Now, first of all, I want to say that in Sri Lanka, each and every full moon day, Pasalovask Poya, each has a great significance. And particularly the Vesak day, the event, the Buddha was born, enlightened, and passed away into Nibbana. And most important for Sri Lankans brothers, Buddhist brothers, is the also on June. Why? Because on this date, the Mahendra, and in Sri Lankan terminology, Mahinda, Mahamahinda, the son of King Asoka, on the dictate of his guru and preceptor, Mahamogliputis, who asked him to visit Sri Lanka and establish the Buddha Sasan there. So it was the day of the Jestha Purnima, Auspicious. It is very much significant in Sri Lankan history of the Buddhism. Second significant date in Sri Lanka is the December, which is called Undu up there because on the full moon day of the December month, the Bhikkhuni Arhant Sangamitta, the younger sister of Mahinda, went there to initiate the women folk on the request of Anula, the queen and others royal ladies there. And she went there with a sapling of the Bodhi tree from the Buddha Gaya. So these two dates have a great significance and importance in Sri Lanka because on these dates, the Sri Lankan people got the teachings of the Buddha. Hereinbefore, as Venerable Bhanteji told, in Sri Lanka there was no national religion, and on the population of Sri Lanka, which is also just like India in diversities, used to worship several types of the gods and semi-gods and other superstitious nature of the thinking on the basis of imagination. I want to bring in the notice of my all honorable audience that when Arhant Mahendra went to Sri Lanka on Jestha Purnima by air with 6 other Arhant with him, like Arhant Ittiye, Uttiye, Sambal, Bhaddasal, Arhant Samnen, Sumna, Anagami, lay disciple Bhanduk. And but it was not the first occasion that anybody had not touched the land of the Sri Lanka. Previously to that, this event, the Lord Buddha, who was seeing by his supernatural and divine power that someday this tiny country, full of faith and religious fervor, honestly will bring the Buddhism on the face of the world. So Buddha had already known it. So the Buddha made 3 visits to this island. He went 3 times to Sri Lanka in the 5th year and 8th year of his enlightenment. After the 5th and 8th year of his enlightenment, Buddha went there where these persons, Arhant Mahendra and Sanghamitta, he went there and saw the seeds of the fertility of the Dhamma there. So, it is the important thing, where the Buddha the Buddha's steps on the land, that becomes fertile for the future, prosperous and thriving situations for the Dhamma. So, Buddha had went there. Not only this, though the King Asoka, you know very well, the son of the king Bindusar and the grandson of the great emperor Chandragupta Maurya, who succeeded the King Nanda after the death of the Alexander, and the King Asoka, when took over as from his father Bindusar, and he was very ambitious to enlarge, expand his royal territory. He was not satisfied with the area and kingdom his father was ruling. So, in the time of the 8th year of the coronation, at the time of the 8th year of the coronation, Asoka, invaded the Kalinga, and there was a fierce battle, terrible war, in which 1 lakh of the army were slain, 1,50,000 were made captive, prisoners of war in the present terminology, and many times of this number were injured. When the King Asoka heard about this carnage and massacre, he was moved by heart. And it was a coincidence that he took vow that he will not conquer the world by war, but by Dhamma Vijay. Simultaneously, according to the old chronicles, there was a Sam named Nigrodh, son of Prince Suman, a brother of the Asoka, converted Asoka into Buddhism by way short but highly illuminating discourse. The theme of which was mindfulness, appamada, and the Asoka, who was called Chandasok after the bloody war, was known as the Asoka the Righteous, Dhammasok. And later on, when he gained more merit into Dhamma, he was called Devanam Piye Dhammadasya Asok. So, and before his son Arhat Mahendra went to Sri Lanka, Asoka, the king, महापात्रा जी इनको आप म्यूट नहीं कर सकते. Who are these making noises?
Let me talk to the host. Let me talk to the host.
इनको म्यूट करा दीजिए प्लीज.
Okay.
So, when the feeling and urge of the king Asoka was so strong, then he got a little divine. So he had foreseen that it is the great service in the world if one comes into the refuge of the Buddha and thereafter propagates the teaching of the Buddha for the welfare of the common people and suffering people in the humanity and the welfare of oneself also. So he permitted his dear son and daughter that they may be ordained with their consent. At that time, his son was 20 years old and Sanghamita was 18-year-old. So, Mogliput Tis was the preceptor of that time of the King Asoka, because he was an Arhat of 20 age. He became Arhat in the age of the 20 years. And like this, though King Asoka never went to Sri Lanka, but he has very good relation with the king of Sri Lanka, Devanam Piyadasi, Sri Lanka. They have never met and not seen each other. But because of the commercial terms, which was through sea and the boats, it was the communication between them, and they used to exchange gifts and courtesies in various natures to each other, with each other. So the land was prepared and fertile for the visit of his son when he was Arhat. As already I said that Mahinda was requested by his preceptor Mogliputtis Mahathera and the Sangh to visit Sri Lanka to establish Buddha Sasan there. He set out from his monastery Asoka Rama in Patna to Vidisagiri. Why Vidisagiri? Because his mother, Devi, was residing there. He had not come to Patliputra or Magad. He stayed back at Vidisagiri because in the Ujjain, it was the part of the kingdom of the King Asoka. To have a last look at his dear mother and to bid farewell to her. So, by this time, the king at Sri Lanka, this father, Mutashiva, had passed away. And Arhant Mahendra was also looking this opportunity by his divine power. He was wanting that I should go in the reign and the time of the Devanam Piyatis. So he stayed back at Vidisagiri for several months. And when on the Purnima, full moon day of the Jestha, he went there with his 6 Arhat fellow, which I named shortly before, went there by air. And when he landed on the hill, the king of Sri Lanka was hunting there. And he saw some persons in the yellow robe. And because previously to this, he never had not such a glimpse of this yellow robed monks. So he was frightened with their presence. But Arhant Mahamahinda read his mind by Parchit Gyan and said to him, "We are monks, O great king, we are monks. Disciple of the king of the truth," means Buddha. Out of compassion for thee, hither we have come from Jambudip. In the simple words, he addressed to the king, "O king, don't be afraid of us. We are the disciple of the Buddha, of the king of the truth. And to have compassion and loving kindness upon you, we have come here from Jambudip." So the king was put at ease by mind hearing these words. Then on the full moon day of Vesak, the Arhant Mahamahinda delivered a Dhamma talk to the king and his or courtiers, ministers of the public there. Thereafter, in the city of Anuradhapur, it was so enchanting and captivating voice of him that everybody was glued and stuck to the each and every word of their master of the Dhamma. Some of them, in the first meeting, hearing the words of the Arhant Mahamahinda, even got sotapan. Because their mind were pure and eager to know the truth. Queen Anula, the consort of an Upraja sub-king named Mahanag, with 500 of her attendants ladies, having listened to the discourses, gained mental attainments. She got sotapan and requested Arhant Mahinda to grant them ordination. There was, however, no Bhikkhuni order then in Sri Lanka. And according to Vinay rules, Mahamahinda was not permitted to give ordination to women folk. This could be done only by a Buddha. Only Buddha can ordain or initiate in lower ordination or higher ordination. Only Buddha is entitled because he is the supreme, but not other than Buddha can ordain any women folk. So Mahamahinda advised that there is no bhikkhuni here, and he suggested King Tisu that his sister Sangmita is an arhant, who was then a bhikkhuni in the India, be invited to Sri Lanka to bestow ordination on the desirous women folk who want to go forth and homeless into order. And thus the bhikkhuni order, to establish the bhikkhuni order in Sri Lanka. The king Devanapriya Tisu was glad at heart in all respect to hear after hearing this from the mouth of the Mahamahinda, Venerable Mahamahinda. And he made arrangements to dispatch a deputation headed by Aritha, one of his ministers, to meet Emperor Asoka, intimating him the wish of the Mahamahinda to send his daughter Sangmita, the Arhant, to Sri Lanka to ordain or to initiate the women folk into the Dhamma. When the king heard this news, he was shocked. He was shocked because he had already given the great Dhammadan by sending his and deputing his son to preach the Dhamma in Sri Lanka. And he was satisfied in the absence of his son that at least to guide me and my people at Magad and in kingdom, the Arhant Sangmita was there, easily available to him because she was so earnest and anxious to preach the Dhamma. So when the Sangmita was 18 at that time, when she was initiated into Dhamma, daughter of Asoka and sister of Mahinda, she was born in Ujjaini and was married to Agni Brahma. She was married, who later joined the order and had by him a son. She was a mother of a son, Suman. She was ordained in her 18th year together with Mahinda. Both of them were ordained at the same time. It is different that, and not only different, it is unique and very, very impossible, extraordinary event. When the Mahendra, he was 14 at the time of the coronation of his father and was ordained at the age of 20. It is very thrilling and enthusiastic to say that the preceptor, being the Mogliputra Tisu, was there, his preceptors. The ordination was performed by Mahadeva, while Majhantika recited the Kammavad. Mahinda became when his head was 7 and the 7 hairs were put into his hands as per the practice while initiating anyone into Dhamma. The head is 7 by any bhikkhu, and thereafter the hair cut off from the head is put into the hands of the incumbent to see the nature of the dirt of the hairs and impermanence. So, when the hairs were put in the cup of hands of Mahendra, instantly he got Arhat. It is a unique event. When the Sanghamitra, he had a son by name of Suman. She was ordained in the 18th year, as I said earlier, with Mahinda. Her preceptor was Dhammapala and her teacher Ayupala. After her ordination and attainment of Arhansi, she lived in Pataliputra. And when Anula, as I said earlier, and other women of Devanam-Piyatissa court at Anuradhapura wished to enter in the order, Devanam-Piyatis, at Mahinda's suggestion, sent an embassy led by Aritha to Asoka, King Asoka, asking that Sanghamitra might be sent to Ceylon and with her a branch of the Bodhi tree for Anuradhapura. Asoka granted the request and sent Sanghamitra by sea and 11 other nuns, bhikkhunis, carrying a branch of the Bodhi tree. On the way, when Nagas surrounded the Bodhi tree in the sea, when she was passing through the sea, the Nagas surrounded their vessel. Sanghamitra frightened them away by assuming the form of a Garud, the bird Garud, because the bird Garud eats the Nag, serpents. So she assumed the form by his divine power as Garud, and she frightened them away. She landed at Jambukola in Sri Lanka, and after her arrival at Anuradhapura, ordained Anula and her companions. She lived at Upasika Vihar and had 12 buildings erected there for the use of the nuns. So, it was the second great event on the Purnima of the December, which Sri Lanka, as I said earlier, celebrate with gaiety and fervor. It is the Anduwap December, Purnima of December. These two great events, two great Buddha Purnima, Jestha full moon day and December full moon day, changed the history of the island and taught the Dhamma, established the Dhamma, laid the foundation of the Dhamma, the path leading to Nibbana in our brother country, Sri Lanka, at that time. Now, I want to tell you people that when both brother and sisters were there, they were day and night busy to teach the Dhamma to each and every person, whether it was a king or a jejun, or means poor, without any discrimination, just like Buddha, who did so in India. So, what is now the theme is this: how did Ceylon, Sri Lanka, became a Dhamma land after the noble visit of Arhant Mahamahinda, the son of the Emperor Asoka? This is the theme of today's webinar. By the narrations of the Venerable, our first speaker, and what I am saying you, now it is crystal clear, undoubtedly, that had there been no visit of Mahamahinda in Sri Lanka, and had King Asoka not made the donation, great dan, of his son to depute him to establish the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, which are very much beneficial in the first, in the middle, and in the last. Then, after this, if his sister Bhikkhuni Arhant Sangmitta must have not gone there on the request of the king, Devanampi Sethis, and if Asoka must have not given permission, then the half population of Sri Lanka must have been deprived of the teachings. Though hearing the teachings of the Mahamahinda, they could easily be Sotapan, Anagami, Arhant, but it must have taken more time. But to expedite it, Mahamahinda suggested that my sister should be invited here, so that the Dhamma, speed of the Dhamma get momentum. So I can say, as our first speaker, Venerable Bhanteji, told that previously, before the advent of the Buddhism in Sri Lanka was also a superstitious country. No way out was for their liberation from the sufferings, let alone Nibbana. Let alone Nibbana. They were entangled in the tangle of the rag dos moh, which was too difficult to be warded off from the psyche, because these evils have settled, embedded in our stream of the consciousness since the time immemorial. And I again and again say this, that if there is any physical ailment, the human being, when feels the physical ailment, whichever type of that may be, he may go to the specialized doctors of the relative faculty for their treatment, and they give fitness to him that your certain disease or ailment has been cured fully. Now you may go join your household course and duties. But I put a question here. I will not ask the question to you I don't expect they should give a reply. But for the sake of the example, I am posing a question. Can anybody, any doctor of this world, whatsoever maybe his qualification, degree, specialization, can deface or efface or eliminate the three unwholesome root, lobh, dvesh, moh, from the consciousness of any person? Is there any remedy in the worldly sense? pat reply is no. So it is the only Buddha, only and only Buddha, and his arhants, who are not only capable, but they are fully competent to eradicate the three whole unwholesome roots, Rag, Dvesh, Moh, lust, hatred, and delusion. Root and branches, not in a partial manner, root and branches from the stream of the consciousness of the worldlings, Puthujan. There are glaring examples, not only glaring examples, but hard to be heard. Had there been no Buddha, could anybody was competent to emancipate the Angulimal, who murdered 990 persons? How could Buddha eliminate the hatred and envy from his mind? Likewise, if had there been no Buddha, who could emancipate the Ambapali, to whom the society has thrown in the den of the vices of the prostitution, Devdasi? And she was entrusted the work of the prostitution. So, had there been no Buddha, was there anybody other than Buddha was competent to bring back to the mainstream of the moral life, civilized life, and thereafter to attain the arhantship, Ambapali? There are so many examples. The greatest example itself of the great Ashoka, as I said some time back, so many persons were killed. He was called Chandaso. When he laid down his arms and sheathed his sword with a vow not to unsheath it in future or war, when he came in the refuge of the Buddha, what a change there. It is just before you. It is today's discussion before you. What was then? Devanam piye dhamdasya so. It is the magic of the Buddha. So, it is very simple thing to understand. Had there been no visit of the Mahendra in the Sri Lanka and his sister, in an apologetic manner, I can say vividly, the Sri Lanka must have not been in the fold of the Buddhism. So it is the greatest impact of the Buddhism, the prosperity of Sri Lanka, the industriousness of Sri Lanka, the awareness of Sri Lanka is at the far ahead in comparison to the islands of its size today. So, with humble words, I want to say again, if these two great Arhant, Mahamahinda and Sangmitta, must have not been deputed and gone to establish Buddhism in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka must have been in the traditionally old Moors and the darkness of the ignorance. With these words, I again give thanks to my Venerable General Secretary, Ishivli Thero, and the organizers of this webinar today to give a look back on the history of the Sri Lanka. With these words, I conclude my Dhamma talk here, and I again pray all the Gautam Buddha and all the previous Buddha to bestow and bless with long, happy, and prosperous life to all of us on this pious day. Namo Buddhaya to all.
Sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you so much, sir.
बहुत अच्छा, बहुत बढ़िया.
Thank you so much,
Nice
sir,
हुआ.
for giving so
कैसे
good
हैं महापात्र
description
सर?
of Ashoka, about Mahinda, Mahamahinda, and Sangamitta. Very good description. Now, I want to convey the message of or blessings of Venerable P. Shivli Thero, the General Secretary of Mahabodhi Society of India. He is now connected with us. He has gone to the residence of Chaudhary, Mr. Chaudhary, to chant some blessings there. So I convey on his behalf, I can convey his good wishes and blessings to you. And also I want to express my feelings, especially on this day, in year 2018, a 53-member delegation from Mahabodhi Society of India visited Sri Lanka. That was the day of Poson Poe. Poson Poe day, that is Jestha Purnima. And we have seen the places connected to or associated with Mahamahinda, the Anuradhapura, the Mihintale, and Tantrimala. All these places are associated with his visit, and who introduced Buddhism in Sri Lanka, great event. And we have seen the remains. We were said that Mahinda and Sangmitra passed away in Sri Lanka. They did not return to India. And whole time they had been propagating and serving Buddhism there. So and over the remains, stupas have been erected in Sri Lanka. Mihintale, we have seen the stupa of Mahamahinda and Sangamitta also. So they sacrificed them for the Dhamma, for the propagation of Dhamma in Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, they are very much revered. On this Poson Poe day, the whole country is celebrating so many festivities. On the whole way, we have seen at Kandy, Dambola, Anuradhapur, Mihintale, Tantrimala, everywhere, the cities, the towns and streets were crowded. People are distributing foods and celebrating joyous festival. So this was the celebration, great celebration, like Vishaka Day, very much. And we enjoyed that celebration too. We visited Sri Lanka. So this was the day that a delegation of Mahabodhi Society of India visited Sri Lanka, especially Mihintale, Tantrimala, and Anuradhapura. And we were fortunate to see those places there. So now, again, I say that on behalf of Mahabodhi Society, I want to express my gratitude and thankfulness to all of you who have joined this one, especially the participants through the British Mahabodhi Society, and especially for the deliberation of Amal Abhay Vardhane, the Secretary of British Mahabodhi Society, which was established in 1926, and all others who have joined us. More than 50 persons have joined us. So very, many thanks to all of them. And again, on behalf of the most venerable General Secretary, I convey his thankfulness and blessings to you in good wishes. Thank you, sir, so much. Namo Buddhaya to each and everyone, one and all. Thank you for joining us. And hope
Namo Maitre Buddha. Thank you.
Next Purnima day, we shall again meet here. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Namo
Thank
Buddhaya.
you. Namo
Namo
Buddha.
Buddhaya.
Sadhuvad,
Namo
sadhuvad.
Buddhaya.
बहुत बढ़िया. नमो मैत्री बुद्धा.